Kadosh, Boker or Bekiim Bahalacha, day 4, Halacha 52, Nun Bet. We're talking about now, can a girl say Kaddish, meaning a daughter? So even if someone leaves behind no sons, his daughter may not recite Kaddish for a soul in the synagogue. If a minyan gathers together in her home for a Torah study session or to recite Tilim, she may recite Kaddish at the session's conclusion. If she can, it's commendable for the daughter to hire someone to say Kaddish in the synagogue for the benefit of her father's soul. Ultimately, someone can volunteer to do this. Whoever takes upon himself to say the Kaddish for someone other than his parents should say at least one time during the year that he's reciting the Kaddish each day for the benefit of the soul of so-and-so, in order that the soul will be elevated to a state of eternal life. Okay, 437 on the bottom of the footnote. The Shevut Yaakov ruled that if someone passed away leaving no sons, his daughter may recite the Kaddish even if 10 men have assembled in her home, but not in the synagogue. The Tshuva Me'ava testified that the rabbinical leaders in Amsterdam did not protest a woman reciting Kaddish with 10 men assembled in her home. The author of Chavot Yair testified that in at least one instance this practice was followed in Amsterdam. He commented that although he found no proof against this practice, and it's likely that the departed soul was pleased that to hear his daughter sanctifying the God's name in this way, we must still remain wary of people introducing new practices that our ancestors never adopted. This might lead to people bending the halacha and eventually overlooking the halacha in various matters. Therefore, this incident has become well known and celebrated. We must take steps to prevent it from being repeated. The response to Knesset Hechal concurred with this ruling that a daughter may not recite Kaddish in the synagogue for a father's soul, and the daughter's son, which is a grandson, may not recite the Kaddish either. The Tshuva Me'ava admitted that there's no basis to permit the daughter to recite Kaddish since this is considered a facet of the mitzvah to honor her parent. The reward for the mitzvah is long life. The Torah promises, and it will be unfair to say that only men could gain this reward, not women. After all, both men and women commanded the same thing of Kibud Avayim. So he comes and he says, he testified that in Prague, the old men and women used to gather in the women's gallery in the synagogue and sit there all morning reciting Tehillim until the afternoon. And if there was someone who passed away without sons, but who had daughters who were 5 or 6 years old, those daughters would recite Kaddish when the old people completed the entire book of Tehillim in the synagogue itself. However, this was never permitted. It would never be correct for a woman or a girl to enter the men's section of the synagogue. Manan Rishon LeZion also concurred with this. He cited the Torah Lishma, who insisted that we must never permit a woman to say Kaddish, since people might stretch this until they permit women to say Kaddish on behalf of men during the prayers. Manan Rishon decided that despite this, it's permitted for a woman to recite Kaddish for a private minyan of men gathered in her home for a Torah study session. We have no authority to forbid this, even if we are afraid that people will learn from this that she may recite Kaddish during the prayers in the synagogue. So Rav Ovadia wanted to be more lenient than the Ben Ish Chai. The Ben Ish Chai would say, no way, no how. But he said, if it's in her own private home and she's got a minyan, so then fine. What about now for a grandparent? Okay, so it says over here like this. For a grandparent, Maran Rishon LeZion stated that there's a mitzvah to recite Kaddish on behalf of one's grandparent's soul, since the Gemara teaches that grandchildren are considered equal to children. In fact, the Ramah ruled that the mitzvah of honoring one's parents applies to honoring one's grandparents as well. Since the obligation of saying Kaddish, in fact, the mitzvah of honoring the parents, also to grandchildren, sees Shuta Ramah. The Knesset Gdula stated that the custom is to recite the Kaddish on behalf of one's grandparents as well. I personally instructed his sons to recite Kaddish to benefit the grandmother's soul, although their mother and him are still alive. So he told the grandchildren to do it, even though the parents are still alive. The Liyarba also likewise ruled that it is proper to recite Kaddish on behalf of the soul of the grandfather and grandmother. The Rishon LeZion added that there's no obligation to say Kaddish to benefit one's wife's soul. Even so, the common custom is to recite it. The husband's Kaddish is more beneficial to her soul than if someone are unrelated. Meaning, technically speaking, and that's why I always say, there's a mistake here, because sometimes here, right, one of the person that does it is the husband, and he's already remarried. And he'll do it, and not the children. Like, they take turns. So he'll do it, and not one of the children. It's wrong. The children have more than anybody else. That if it's going to be between somebody stranger and the husband comes first. But if not, right, for sure, the husband is nothing. You understand? Especially he remarried also. So it's a different story. Kaddish for someone unrelated. Harav Yosef Kolon, Marie Kolon. He says it is possible for someone to recite Kaddish on behalf of somebody that's not related to him at all. He said the response of the Ra'ana. He says, ruling that he was hired to say the Kaddish, right? And then his father passed away. He may continue reciting the Kaddish to benefit to both the father and the mother and the departed soul. as long as this was an intention while reciting Kaddish. Okay? While traveling. He says that Yarabah started the response of Binyamin Zev regarding someone who needed to travel overseas and there was no minyan available. So in this case, he should hire someone else to say the Kaddish when he's going to be the entire time there. The rabbi's Kaddish. Response to Chaim Beyad Falachi. He cited his grandfather, Otor Lev, explaining that in many communities, the rabbi recites the Kaddish that precedes the Lil Shabeach. The rabbi's Kaddish benefits all those who passed away and have no sons to say the Kaddish for their benefit. Okay. 53. Someone who converts to Judaism may recite Kaddish to benefit the souls of his non-Jewish biological parents, an appreciation for giving him life and for giving him an opportunity to grow spiritually and become a member of the Jewish nation. By reciting the Kaddish, the convert enables his parents' soul to rest comfortably. It can lessen their suffering if they are being punished in the next world. Okay? The footnote, number 438. So again, this is talking about, imagine, a ger, he just converted, and now he's got no parents, but his biological parents, if one of them died and they are goyim, he could say Kaddish for them. Right? This actually happened here in the Beit Knesset, and I told him to say the Kaddish because that was a psak of Rabbi Ovadia. The Rishon LeZion cited the Tosafot that although the Gemara teaches that a son can grant spiritual credit to his father, but a father cannot grant spiritual credit to his son. Even, right? So King David's prayers saved the son of Shalom from suffering Gehinnom and raised him to the basket splendor of the world to come. That means even though usually it's the son to the father and not the father to the son, David HaMelech succeeded in getting his son of Shalom out of Gehinnom and into Gan Eden. A father's mitzvah will not give credit to his son and increase his reward, but the father's prayer can help to extract his son from Gehinnom and enable him to enter Gan Eden. The Rishon LeZion reason that the same should apply to a convert regarding his biological parents, that although according to the Halacha he's not related to them, it is benefiting for him to offer prayers on behalf of them in gratitude for bringing them into the world. This is especially so if the parents supported his decision to convert and assisted him financially. His Kaddish will be at least as effective as someone unrelated to the person for whom he recites it for, as described in the previous footnote.